So one of the stars from the film Wicked actually is coming out and has been cast as Jesus Christ in a new film for Jesus Christ Superstar. Now, right off the bat, a couple things that we want to kind of dive into, or at least I want to cover, is one, kind of the history of this musical that's being turned into a film, and then also just some of the other things that we've seen in Hollywood and kind of can expect from Hollywood. But yeah, the story essentially is that Cynthia, I don't want to mispronounce her last name, Erivo is going to be playing Jesus Christ in this new film for Jesus Christ Superstar. Now, if you're not familiar, Cynthia Erivo was recently pretty much the main character protagonist in a new film that came out, another musical turned into a film called Wicked. And Cynthia Erivo, if you know, first thing is first, they're casting a woman to play Jesus, so there's been a lot of kickback and controversy around that. But they also really highlighted the fact that Cynthia is a gay woman, and I think it's one of those things too where how can we drum up the most amount of press and excitement and attention around this new film coming out? This is one of the ways to do it, is with this casting, and then also to kind of lead into it. What's interesting though is that this article and other articles like it, while highlighting that she's going to be, playing Jesus, they also kind of hint at the fact that this this musical Jesus Christ Superstar has not always been a well-received film or musical. And that's kind of one of the things that I found out as well, looking more into this, because I hadn't really known too much about this musical. I kind of did some digging, and I was able to find out that, yeah, generally speaking, the Christian community at large has not really accepted this musical as being a positive evangelical type tool. So I think more than anything, the first thing when I start seeing some stuff like this about, someone's going to be playing Jesus Christ, I'm immediately drawn to the fact that when people see this, they're going to interpret whoever's playing that role as Jesus Christ. We've had this thing with The Chosen, where this individual, Jonathan Rumi, has been playing Jesus, and a lot of people associate him with Jesus Christ. And the reality is, we don't want to do that, man or woman, straight, gay, whatever it might be, in any situation. And I have some thoughts on Jonathan Rumi, the fact that he is a Knights Templar, that he's come out and said this, which is an order of the Masonic, an order of Freemasonry, that he's come out and said that, he has beliefs around Catholicism, which is totally antithesis to what the Bible actually is. So the fact that they have a gay woman playing Jesus is not surprising to me. And it also falls in that same line of idolatry. People are going to be seeing this as Jesus. The second question that kind of comes up is why? Why are we choosing to do this? And I think the answer to that question is a lot simpler, because Hollywood doesn't care about Jesus. They don't care about Christianity, and they really want to just stir up the pot as much as they possibly can. So this musical, Jesus Christ Superstar, was written by Andrew Lloyd Webber. You can see some of the other musicals that he's been involved in: Phantom of the Opera, Cats, Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, another biblical story that was kind of, transition. But you can see he's just generally writing other musicals that we wouldn't consider from a Christian standpoint. And then Tim Rice was the actual songwriter for it. He has very similar credits as Andrew Lloyd Webber, but again, they're not Christian based. They're not looking to put out any sort of Christian specific item. You can see right here that he did the same thing: Jesus Christ Superstar, Evita, which was Andrew Lloyd Webber, and then some of the other ones with Lion King and some of the other films that were out there. Ultimately, we have secular media producing Christian-based content, and we're surprised when it's misrepresented, and we really shouldn't be. This isn't the first time either it's happened. Michael Jackson's daughter, Paris Jackson, actually created a film called Habit, in which Jesus was portrayed as a woman and a lesbian. We also have heard about this before. If you haven't, it's called The First Temptation of Christ, which is on Netflix. It's a Netflix film, and it talks about Jesus Christ actually being gay and being tempted when he's 30. So again, you kind of see this over and over and over in Hollywood. And again, it's because Hollywood does not care about Christianity. They don't care about Jesus. And you have people being led in the totally opposite way of what God actually is looking to represent and what God is actually looking to communicate. Oftentimes when we look at the world and we look at these things playing out, it's kind of like, why are they doing this? Why are they poking the bear? And the question always comes up, at least with, the people that I talk with and a friend of mine who brought this to my attention: why don't they make this about other religions? Why don't they make Muhammad be in these situations? Why don't they do this with Buddhism or these other religions? Why don't they put them at the forefront and kind of call them out or insult them or make derogatory terms about them? And the reality is because Christianity is one of those passive religions, and when these things happen, we have learned to turn the other cheek, which I think is a very valuable thing. I don't think or see this as persecution or an attack on Christianity itself, but more so Hollywood kind of serving itself. Now, realistically, when we think about the end times and what's going to happen in the last days, we're going to have a mass revival awakening of Christianity in the United States and across the world. I truly and firmly believe that. Is it going to be genuine? Maybe partially, but mostly it's probably not going to be. And with the pendulum swinging so hard the other way in things like Hollywood, we're starting to see the needle move back the other way. As a matter of fact, Disney, which has been a huge proponent of pushing these messages and implementing these into stories, has even come out and ditched a transgender story that they were going to put out in exchange for a Christian story. You see right here, Disney introduces Christian character after ditching transgender story. This is published by Newsweek last Friday. You can see right here, it's introducing a Christian character into its Pixar animated show Win or Lose shortly after a transgender storyline was pulled. So pretty powerful to think that Disney, who was at the forefront of this for so many years, so long, pushing and pushing and pushing, is now kind of pulled back a little bit. And we're going to see this happen over and over and over again. Hollywood has been one of the many arms that has pushed too far to the other side, and the aisle is going to swing back even harder in the other direction. Now, as a Christian, some of that stuff is like kind of interesting, like, oh, okay, that's great. We're going to have Christian values, Christian morals. But then there's the other component of it where we might have a church and state religion. We might have a theocracy that comes into place where a false religion is pushed onto the masses and civil and capital punishments are rolled out to the United States and other countries. That's where this is, I really think, heading. Now, you could be asking, FLF, why is it that this film, this topic that you're covering, is leading into this really drastic outcome? And the simple fact is this: for years and years and years, Christians have endured this kind of repetitive sort of bashing and bashing of Christianity, where in film and media, it's always treated poorly, represented poorly, kicked down, looked at from a bigoted standpoint. And things have been shifting in the mainstream culture, especially with someone like Trump almost getting shot, winning the election, and coming out to reinstate what he would call conservative values. You see this over and over and over again. So it's been a rallying cry for Christians and religious folks across the United States to kind of jump behind this. So when we see stuff like this, we see that shift from, we just had, Cynthia Erivo announced as Jesus Christ Superstar, and then Disney on the opposite end of the spectrum ditch a transgendered story and instead introduce a Christian character. You kind of start seeing, what's happening and how the tide is shifting. And as soon as popular media and mainstream media begins to abandon the narrative that has been pushed for so long and begins to adopt more Christian values and appeasing the Christian populace in the United States, that's when you're going to start to see things really shift quite dramatically. So I'm looking forward to it because I know that means Christ is coming back even sooner. But the reality is, when I see stuff like this, it's a dwindling symptom of what's to come. And it's going to be pretty amazing when it finally does. But with that being said, guys, thank you so much for watching. Again, FLF here. Please share this with someone that might be interested in learning more. And let's continue to light it, Babylon. God bless.